Is he mine? Jae-hyun's voice shattered the clinic's silence, his hand reaching for Treasure's pregnant belly before she jerked away. Her ex-husband, the mafia heir who'd divorced her 6 months ago because his family couldn't stomach a black daughter-in-law, looked like he'd been shot. 7 months pregnant. 6 months divorced. The math was destroying him in real time. His mother had offered her 2 million won to disappear, called her a stain on their perfect dynasty. He'd signed the papers without fighting back. Now this baby represented everything. The empire he'd chosen over love, the family approval he'd traded her for, the heir status that could vanish if anyone discovered the truth. Treasure's son kicked violently against her ribs as Jae-hyun stepped closer, and she realized they were both standing on the edge of a cliff. One word from her could either destroy him or give him back everything he'd lost. Welcome back, family. Have you ever run into your ex at the worst possible moment? Not just any ex, the one who broke your heart, chose his family over you, let you walk away without a fight. Now imagine you're 7 months pregnant with his child, and he has no idea. This story will wreck you in the best way. It's about second chances, fighting for love when everyone says you shouldn't, and proving that family is what you build, not what you're born into. If you've ever wondered if people can really change, or if love is worth risking your heart twice, you need to hear what happens next. Drop a comment telling me you are watching from, and if you'd give an ex like this another chance. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because this story gets even more intense. Treasure's obstetrician looked up from her chart. Mrs. Park? It's just Treasure now, she said quietly, but her voice cracked. Jae-hyun's jaw tightened. He didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there like a statue carved from ice and fury and something else she couldn't name. His eyes dropped to her belly, and she watched the color drain from his face. The receptionist cleared her throat. Sir, if you're not a patient. I'm waiting for someone, Jo-hun said, his voice low and dangerous in that way that made people obey without question. Treasure stood, her legs shaking. 7 months pregnant, and she still felt like that 26-year-old woman who'd married him thinking love would be enough, thinking he'd choose her over his family's empire. She'd been wrong. The nurse called her name again, and Treasure walked toward the Interracial rooms without looking back. But she felt his stare burning into her spine, felt the weight of unasked questions pressing against her lungs. Inside the small room, Dr. Kim smiled warmly. How are we feeling today? Tired, Treasure admitted. Always tired. The ultrasound gel was cold against her skin. The monitor flickered to life, and there he was. Her son, curled up safe and unaware of the chaos waiting outside. Miss Uoban's heartbeat filled the room, steady and strong, and Treasure's eyes burned with tears she refused to shed. Everything looks perfect, Dr. Kim said. He's measuring right on schedule. Have you thought more about your birth plan? Treasure nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. On the man in the waiting room, on the divorce that had shattered her, on the family that had driven them apart. 20 minutes later, she stepped back into the hallway and nearly collided with him. Jae-hyun caught her elbow, steadying her with hands that felt too familiar, too warm. Careful. What are you doing here? The words came out sharper than she intended. I could ask you the same thing. His gaze dropped to her belly again, and this time she saw it. The flash of something raw and desperate in his eyes. Who? That's not your concern anymore. His grip tightened, not enough to hurt, but enough to make her pulse race. Everything about you is my concern. You signed the papers, Jae-hyun. You chose your family over me, remember? Something flickered across his face, maybe pain, maybe regret. I never wanted, but you did. Treasure pulled free, her heart pounding too hard, too fast. You let your mother convince you I wasn't good enough, that I'd never fit into your world. Treasure, don't. She stepped back, putting distance between them because proximity made her weak, made her remember things she needed to forget. I'm late for work. She walked past him, shoulders straight, chin up, even though everything inside her was crumbling. Even though she wanted to turn around and scream at him, demand answers, ask why he looked at her like she'd ripped his heart out when he was the one who'd walked away. Outside, the Seoul afternoon was cold and gray. Treasure pulled her coat tighter and headed toward the subway station. She worked at a small bookstore in Hongdae now, far from the luxury penthouse she'd shared with Jae-hyun, far from the world of private drivers and security, teams and family dinners, where his mother looked at her like she was a stain on expensive silk. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. Finally, she answered. What? Don't hang up. Jae-hyun's voice was rough, strained. Please. Treasure closed her eyes, hating how that single word still affected her, how the man who'd destroyed her could reduce her to pieces with one syllable. How far along? He asked. 7 months. Silence stretched between them, heavy and loaded. Is it? He couldn't finish the question. Goodbye, Jae-hyun. She ended the call and blocked the number, but her hands were shaking so badly she had to sit down on a bench, pressing her palm against her belly where her son kicked in protest. I know, she whispered. I know. Later that evening, Treasure's apartment felt too quiet. She'd moved here after the divorce, a tiny one-bedroom in a neighborhood where nobody knew her name or her history, where she could be just another pregnant woman trying to figure out her life. She made tea and settled onto the couch with a book, but the words blurred together. All she could see was Jae-hyun's face when he'd looked at her belly. The shock, the hunger, the desperate, unspoken question hanging between them. Her phone rang. Different number, but she knew. Stop calling. I need to know, Jae-hyun said, and his voice was different now. Raw, stripped of the control he usually wore like armor. Is he mine? Treasure's throat tightened. You gave up that right. Treasure, please. You chose your mother over me, over us. You stood there in that lawyer's office and signed those papers without even fighting. So no, Jae-hyun, you don't get to know. You don't get to show up 6 months later and demand answers. I made a mistake. The words hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. You think that fixes anything? Treasure's voice cracked. You think saying sorry erases what you did? How your family treated me? How your mother told me I'd never be enough because of my skin, because of where I came from, because I wasn't Korean enough for her precious son? I should have defended you. Yes, you should have. Treasure wiped her eyes angrily. But you didn't. And now, we're here. She hung up and turned off her phone. The next morning, Treasure woke to someone knocking on her door. Persistent. Demanding. She wrapped her robe around her belly and checked the peephole. Jae-hyun stood in the hallway, looking like he hadn't slept. Still wearing yesterday's suit, tie loosened, hair disheveled in a way she'd never seen during their marriage. Back then, he'd been perfect. Controlled. The heir to the Park family's empire, a man who ran one of Korea's most powerful organizations, with an iron fist wrapped in expensive Italian leather. Now he looked broken. Treasure opened the door a crack. How did you find me? I never stopped knowing where you were. His eyes met hers, dark and intense. I've had people watching you, making sure you're safe. Anger flared hot in her chest. You had no right. I had every right. He pushed the door open gently, stepping inside before she could protest. You're carrying my child. You don't know that. Don't I? Jae-hyun's gaze swept over her, taking in every detail. The way she held her belly, the exhaustion in her eyes, the wedding ring she'd stopped wearing. We divorced 6 months ago. You're 7 months pregnant. The math isn't complicated, Treasure. She wanted to deny it, wanted to protect her son from the world that had chewed her up and spit her out. But looking at Jae-hyun, at the desperate hope in his eyes despite everything, "He's mine," she said firmly. "Not yours, not your family's. Mine." Something shifted in his expression. Pain, maybe, or understanding. "I'm not here to take him from you." "Then why are you here?" Jae-hyun stepped closer, and she hated how her body responded, how her heart still recognized him even after everything. "Because I've spent 6 months in hell. Because I made the worst mistake of my life when I let you go. Because that child, our child, deserves better than what I gave you." "Pretty words," Treasure said, but her voice wobbled. "Your mother used pretty words, too. Right before she offered me money to disappear." His face went dark, dangerous. "She did what?" 2 million won. Said it was enough for someone like me to start over somewhere far away. Somewhere you'd never have to be embarrassed by your black wife again. Jae-hyun's hands clenched into fists. "When?" "The day before you filed for divorce." Treasure laughed bitterly. "I wondered if you knew, if you put her up to it. But looking at your face now, maybe you didn't. Maybe you were just too much of a coward to stand up to her yourself." He flinched like she'd struck him. "Get out," Treasure said quietly. "Please just get out." For a moment, she thought he'd refuse, thought he'd fight or argue or use that commanding presence to make her listen. But instead, he nodded slowly. "I'll go," he said. "But this isn't over. That's my son you're carrying, and I'm not walking away again. Not from him. Not from you." He left, and Treasure sank onto her couch, shaking. A few days later, flowers started appearing, not at her apartment. Jae-hyun was smarter than that. But at the bookstore where she worked, orchids, her favorite. White and purple and delicate, with small cards that said nothing except his name, written in that familiar handwriting. Her co-worker, Min Seo, raised her eyebrows. "Secret admirer? Complicated ex," Treasure muttered. "Complicated how? He's the father. And he doesn't want to be an ex anymore." Min Seo whistled low. "What are you gonna do? Ignore him until he gives up?" But Jae-hyun didn't give up. He showed up at the bookstore 3 days later, carrying coffee. The exact way she liked it, with oat milk and honey because regular milk made her nauseous during pregnancy. How he knew that, she had no idea. "I'm working," Treasure said when he approached the counter. "I can see that." He set the coffee down. "You look tired." "I'm 7 months pregnant. I'm supposed to look tired." "You're also standing for 8 hours a day. That can't be good for you." She wanted to snap at him, tell him to mind his business, but her feet were killing her, and the coffee smelled amazing, and damn him for still knowing exactly how to break through her defenses. "What do you want, Jae-hyun?" "To talk. 5 minutes." "We already talked." "No, you yelled and I listened, which I deserved, but now I'm asking for 5 minutes where we both listen." Treasure glanced at Min Seo, who made a shooing motion. Traitor. She followed Jae-hyun outside into the cold afternoon. He immediately shrugged off his coat and draped it over her shoulders before she could protest. "I spoke with my mother," he said without preamble. "Good for you." She admitted what she did. "The money, the things she said to you." His jaw was tight, controlled fury simmering beneath the surface. "I've removed her from all decision-making positions in the family business. She no longer has access to company funds or influence over family matters." Treasure stared at him. "You... what?" "She drove away the only woman I've ever loved. She insulted you, tried to buy you off, made you feel like you weren't worthy of being my wife." Jae-hyun's voice was low and dangerous. "She's lucky that's all I did." Something in Treasure's chest cracked. Jae-hyun. I should have done it 2 years ago when we got married. I should have told her that if she couldn't respect you, she had no place in our lives. I should have protected you. He met her eyes, and the regret there was so raw it hurt to look at. I failed you. I know that. And I know saying sorry doesn't fix anything. But I need you to understand. Losing you broke something in me. Something I didn't think could break. You signed the divorce papers, Treasure whispered. Because you asked me to. Because you said you couldn't live in a world where my family made you feel less than. And I thought maybe you'd be happier without me. Without all of this, he gestured vaguely, encompassing the life she'd left behind. I thought I was doing the right thing. You were a coward. Yes. He didn't flinch from the accusation. I was. I am. But I'm trying to be better. For him. His gaze dropped to her belly. For you. If you'll let me. Treasure's hands trembled as she pulled his coat tighter. It smelled like him. Expensive cologne. And something uniquely Jae-hyun that made her heart ache. I don't know if I can trust you again. I know. I'll earn it back, however long it takes. Your family will never accept me. Then they're not my family anymore. The words hung between them, heavy with promise and danger, and all the things they'd never properly said before. I need time, Treasure said, finally. To think, to figure out what's best for my son. Our son, Jae-hyun corrected gently. But yes, take whatever time you need. I'll be here. He turned to leave, then paused. The clinic appointment. I was there meeting with a specialist. One of my men was injured, needed surgery. I wasn't following you. I need you to know that. Treasure nodded, not trusting her voice. She watched him walk away, and something inside her whispered that this wasn't over. That whatever had drawn them together the first time was still there, burning beneath the surface. Waiting. By the end of the week, Treasure's apartment building had new security. She noticed the cameras first, then the guard who appeared in the lobby. When she asked the building manager about it, he just smiled nervously and said it was a free upgrade. She knew better. Her phone buzzed. A new number, but she recognized the pattern. I didn't ask for security, she texted. You're carrying my child. You get security. That's not how this works. It is now. Treasure wanted to be angry, wanted to tell him he couldn't just throw money at problems and expect them to disappear. But a small, traitorous part of her felt safer knowing someone was watching. Knowing that if something happened, Jae-hyun would know. She hated that part of herself. Later that evening, Min Seo invited her to dinner. A small restaurant in Itaewon. Nothing fancy, just good Korean food and better company. Treasure almost said no. She was exhausted and her back hurt, and all she wanted was to go home and sleep. But Min Seo had been kind when Treasure first moved to Seoul, had helped her find the apartment and the job without asking too many questions. So she went. The restaurant was crowded, warm, full of laughter and conversation. Treasure settled into a corner booth and ordered bibimbap, extra vegetables, no spice. Pregnancy had made her sensitive to heat. How are you really doing? Min Seo asked when their food arrived. I don't know, Treasure admitted. He says he wants another chance, that he's changed. But how do I trust that? How do I risk my heart again when he already broke it once? Do you still love him? The question hit her like a punch. Because yes. God help her? Yes. She'd never stopped loving Jae-hyun. She'd just learned to bury it deep enough that she could function, could breathe, could imagine a future that didn't include him. But now he was back, and all those carefully buried feelings were clawing their way to the surface. It doesn't matter, Treasure said quietly. Love isn't enough. We already proved that. Maybe. Or maybe you both just needed to grow up first. Before Treasure could respond, someone approached their table. A man, mid-30s, handsome in a casual way. He smiled at Treasure with the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. "Sorry to interrupt," he said in English, accent American. "But I couldn't help noticing you from across the room. I'm Derek." Minseo's eyes widened. Treasure just felt tired. "I'm pregnant and not interested," she said flatly. Derek's smile didn't falter. "The pregnancy doesn't bother me. Actually makes you more beautiful. That glow thing is real." "Still not interested. Can I at least buy you dessert? No strings attached. Just one American meeting another in Seoul." She said no. The voice came from behind Derek, cold and lethal and far too familiar. Treasure's heart stopped. Jae-hyun stood there in a black suit, hands in his pockets, looking every inch the dangerous man he actually was. His eyes were on Derek, but the threat in them was unmistakable. Derek turned, clearly about to argue, then saw Jae-hyun's face and thought better of it. "Sorry, man. Didn't realize she was taken. Now you do." Derek left quickly. Smart man. Jae-hyun slid into the booth next to Treasure, not asking permission, just claiming the space like it belonged to him, his thigh pressed against hers under the table, warm and solid and making it impossible to think. "What are you doing here?" Treasure demanded. "Having dinner," he signaled the waiter, ordered in rapid Korean. "Minseo invited me." Treasure's head whipped toward her co-worker, who suddenly looked very interested in her soup. "Traitor," Treasure muttered. Minseo shrugged. "He loves you. You love him. You're both miserable apart. Someone had to do something." "That's not how this works, isn't it?" Jae-hyun's voice was quiet, but his hand found hers under the table. His fingers laced through hers, and she hated how right it felt, how her body still recognized his touch, like coming home. "Tell me you don't feel it. Tell me that when he was flirting with you, you didn't wish he'd leave. That you didn't want." "Don't," Treasure pulled her hand away. "Don't assume you know what I want." "Then tell me. What do you want, Treasure?" She wanted him. God, she wanted him so badly it hurt. Wanted to believe that things could be different, that he'd really changed, that they could build something better than what they'd had before. But wanting wasn't enough. "I want my son to be safe," she said finally. "I want him to grow up knowing he's loved, that he's enough exactly as he is. I don't want him in a world where his grandmother looks at him like he's a disappointment because his mother is black." "He won't be," Jae-hyun said, and the certainty in his voice made her chest tight. "My mother will never see him, never speak to him, never have the chance to make him feel less than. I swear it. You can't promise that." "I can. I did. She's been removed from the family, completely. My father agreed. My brother agreed. She has no power anymore, Treasure. No voice, no influence. Nothing." Treasure stared at him, shock rendering her speechless. The Park family was everything to Jae-hyun. The legacy, the business, the empire his grandfather had built from nothing, and he just cut his mother out of it. For her. "Why?" she whispered. "Because she hurt you. Because she tried to buy you off like you were nothing when you're everything. Because the thought of our son growing up hearing the same poison she fed me." His jaw clenched. "I won't allow it. I refuse." Minseo stood abruptly. "I just remembered I have somewhere to be. Bye." She left before Treasure could protest, leaving them alone in the crowded restaurant. Jae-hyun shifted closer. Not touching, but close enough that she could feel the heat of him. Could smell that cologne that still made her weak. "I know I don't deserve another chance," he said quietly. "I know I failed you in every way that mattered. But that baby, our son, he deserves better than a father who gave up, who chose pride and family pressure over love. Jae-hyun, Let me finish. Please. He took a breath. I've spent 6 months drowning, going through the motions, running the business, dealing with threats, managing the empire. But none of it mattered, because you weren't there, because I'd wake up reaching for you and find empty space, because I'd see something funny and want to tell you, then remember I'd given up that right. Treasure's eyes burned. I'm not asking you to forgive me, Jae-hyun continued. I'm asking you to let me prove I've changed, to let me be there for our son, to let me show you that this time, I'll fight for us. I'm scared, Treasure admitted, the words barely a whisper. I'm scared you'll choose them again, that when things get hard, you'll decide I'm not worth it. Never. His hand cupped her face, thumb brushing away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. You're worth everything, Treasure. You always were. I was just too blind to see it. For a moment, they just looked at each other, and Treasure felt something shift, something fragile and terrifying and achingly beautiful. Maybe. Just maybe. One chance, she heard herself say. You get one chance to prove you mean it. But the first time your family makes me feel less than, the first time you choose them over us, I'm gone, and I won't come back. Jae-hyun's eyes closed briefly, relief washing over his features. One chance is all I need. He pressed his forehead to hers, and Treasure let herself breathe him in. Let herself imagine that this could work, that they could build something better from the ashes of what they'd lost. Our son kicks, she said softly, especially at night, like he's practicing taekwondo in there. Jae-hyun's hand moved to her belly, hovering. Can I? She guided his palm to where their baby was moving, and watched Jae-hyun's face transform. Wonder replaced the careful control. Joy cracked through the armor he wore. He's strong, Jae-hyun breathed. He is. Takes after his father, probably. Or his mother. You're the strongest person I know. Treasure laughed, the sound watery. I don't feel strong. I feel exhausted and scared and completely overwhelmed. Then let me help. Let me carry some of it. She wanted to say no. Wanted to protect herself and her son from the possibility of more heartbreak. But looking at Jae-hyun, at the desperate hope in his eyes, at the way he held her belly like it was the most precious thing in the world. Okay, she whispered. Okay. The next morning, Jae-hyun showed up at her apartment with breakfast. Not fancy hotel room service, just street food from her favorite vendor, the one near the bookstore that made hotteok exactly how she liked it, crispy on the outside, sweet on the inside. How did you know about this place? Treasure asked, accepting the warm pastry despite herself. I told you. I never stopped knowing where you were. He leaned against her kitchen counter, watching her eat with an intensity that made her self-conscious. I know you stop there every morning on your way to work. I know you always buy 2 because 1 is never enough. I know you like your coffee with oat milk and honey, that you can't stand the smell of fish anymore, that you've been craving mangoes even though they're expensive this time of year. That's borderline stalking. I prefer concerned observation. His lips quirked, almost a smile. I needed to know you were okay, that you were eating enough, sleeping enough, not working too hard. I can take care of myself. I know. But you shouldn't have to. Not alone. Treasure bit into the hotteok, letting the sweetness melt on her tongue. She'd missed this. Not the grand gestures or expensive gifts, just him. The quiet moments. The way he paid attention to small things. I have a doctor's appointment next week, she said, not looking at him. Ultrasound. They'll tell us the exact due date, check his development, make sure everything's progressing normally. Jae-hyun went very still. Can I come? I don't know if that's... Please. The word was raw. I've already missed 6 months. Let me be there for this. Treasure's chest tightened. She wanted to say no, wanted to keep this part of her pregnancy, separate from him. But looking at his face, at the naked longing there, fine. Next Thursday, 2 p.m. Don't be late. I won't be. He left after that, and Treasure sank onto her couch, wondering what she'd just agreed to. Letting him back in felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, 1 foot already over the edge. Later that week, flowers appeared at her apartment. Not orchids this time, but sunflowers. Bright and cheerful, with a card that read, "Because you deserve sunshine," Min Seo called that evening. So, how's it going with Mr. Tall, Dark, and Brooding? His name is Jae-hyun. I know his name. I'm asking how you're doing. Treasure shifted on the couch, trying to find a comfortable position. He's trying, really trying, and it's confusing and scary, and I don't know if I can do this again. Do you want to? That's the problem. Yes, I do. But wanting something doesn't make it safe. Nothing worth having is safe, honey. Min Seo's voice was gentle. But maybe that's okay. Maybe safe isn't what you need right now. After they hung up, Treasure pressed her hand to her belly where her son was doing somersaults. What do you think, little one? Should we give your father a chance? The baby kicked hard, right against her palm. I'll take that as a yes. By Thursday, Treasure's nerves were shot. She'd changed clothes 3 times, finally settling on a simple dress that accommodated her belly without making her feel like a tent. Jae-hyun arrived exactly on time, wearing dark jeans and a sweater instead of his usual suit. He looked younger somehow, more approachable. "You look beautiful," he said when she opened the door. "I look pregnant?" Same thing. The clinic was different this time, less sterile, more welcoming. Maybe because Jae-hyun was there, his presence somehow making everything feel less overwhelming. He held doors, kept his hand on the small of her back, radiated protective energy that made nurses smile and other patients give them space. In the ex-treasuration room, Dr. Kim's eyes widened when she saw Jae-hyun. "Mr. Park, I didn't realize." "I'm the father," Jae-hyun said simply, "if that's all right with Treasure." Dr. Kim looked at Treasure, who nodded reluctantly. The ultrasound gel was still cold. The monitor still flickered to life, but this time, when their son appeared on screen, Treasure wasn't alone. Jae-hyun stood beside her, his hand finding hers, his breath catching as he saw their baby for the first time. "That's him," Treasure whispered. "He's perfect." Jae-hyun's voice was thick with emotion. "Look at him." Dr. Kim smiled, moving the wand to show different angles. "He's measuring beautifully, right on track. See here? That's his heartbeat. Strong and steady. And these are his fingers. He's sucking his thumb." Jae-hyun made a sound, half laugh, half sob. His grip on Treasure's hand tightened. "Due date is looking like mid-March," Dr. Kim continued. "About 2.5 months from now. Do you have support at home, Treasure? Someone to help you when labor starts?" Treasure hesitated. "I'll be there," Jae-hyun said firmly. "Whatever she needs, whenever she needs it." Dr. Kim nodded approvingly. "Good. First-time labor can be long and exhausting. Having support makes all the difference." After the appointment, they sat in Jae-hyun's car in silence. The ultrasound pictures lay between them on the console, black and white proof of the life they'd created. "Thank you," Jae-hyun said finally, "for letting me be there." "He's your son too. You should get to see him." "I mean, thank you for giving me another chance. I know how hard that must be after everything I put you through." Treasure looked out the window at the gray Seoul afternoon. "Your mother really has no contact with you anymore?" "None. My father made it official. She's been moved to the family estate in Jeju, given a generous allowance, but she has no say in business matters or family decisions." My brother oversees her finances to ensure she doesn't try anything creative. She must hate me even more now. She has no right to hate you. She destroyed her relationship with me through her own actions. Jae-hyun's voice was cold. And even if she did try something, she'd have to go through me first. That won't happen. Treasure believed him. That was the scary part. She believed every word. I need to get back to work, she said softly. Let me drive you. Jo-hyun, please. It's cold, and you're 7 months pregnant, and I just want to make sure you get there safely. She should say no, should maintain boundaries, but her feet hurt, and the subway was crowded this time of day, and honestly, she was tired of fighting him when all he was trying to do was help. Okay. The drive to the bookstore was quiet, comfortable. Jae-hyun drove with one hand on the wheel, the other resting on the console between them. Close enough to touch, but not quite touching. Giving her space while making it clear he wanted to be closer. When they arrived, he walked her to the door. Can I see you this weekend? He asked. Take you to dinner? Somewhere quiet where we can just talk. I don't know if... Not a date, just dinner. Between two people trying to figure out how to be parents together. Treasure wanted to say no, wanted to slow this down before she got swept away again. But looking at him, at the hope in his eyes. Saturday, 6 p.m., but nowhere fancy. I can't fit into fancy clothes anymore. Jae-hyun's smile was genuine this time, full and bright, and making him look younger than 40. I know just the place. He left, and Treasure watched his car disappear into traffic, wondering what she was getting herself into. Saturday arrived too quickly. Treasure spent the afternoon overthinking her outfit, finally settling on maternity jeans and a soft sweater. Comfortable, practical, not trying too hard. Jae-hyun showed up in jeans again, casual in a way she'd rarely seen during their marriage. Back then, he'd always been the heir, the boss, the man in expensive suits making million-dollar decisions. This version of him felt more real somehow. He took her to a small Italian restaurant in Gangnam, tucked away from the main streets. The kind of place with checkered tablecloths and candles and wine bottles, and food that smelled like heaven. I didn't know this place existed, Treasure admitted as they were seated. It's been here for 20 years. The owner's family is from Naples. His grandmother makes the pasta fresh every morning. How did you find it? I've been coming here since university, before the family business consumed everything. Before I became... He paused. Before I became someone I didn't recognize. Treasure studied him across the table. You've changed. I had to. Losing you made me realize I'd turned into my mother, putting family legacy above everything else, forgetting what actually matters, which is love, truth, being a good man, not just a powerful one. His eyes met hers. You, our son, building something real instead of just maintaining an empire. The waiter appeared with bread and olive oil. After he left, Jae-hyun leaned forward. Tell me about these 6 months, he said. I know where you lived and where you worked, but I don't know how you felt, what you thought about, if you were happy or sad or angry. Treasure broke off a piece of bread, buying time. All of the above, sometimes in the same hour. Did you hate me? Sometimes. Mostly I hated that I couldn't hate you. That even after everything, I still... She stopped, the words catching in her throat. Still what? Still loved you. Still wanted you. Still woke up reaching for you and finding empty space. Jae-hyun's hand covered hers on the table. I did the same thing, every morning for 6 months, reaching for you. Forgetting for just a second that you were gone, then remembering and feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. Poetic. True. His thumb traced circles on her palm. I tried to move on, Tried to convince myself that the divorce was for the best, that you'd be happier without me and my family's poison. But then I'd see something that reminded me of you. A woman laughing, someone ordering coffee with oat milk, a bookstore window, and I'd fall apart all over again. Treasure's throat was tight. Why didn't you call? Because you asked me not to. Because you said you needed space to heal. And I'd already taken so much from you. I couldn't take that too. So you just watched from a distance? Yes. Making sure you were safe, that you had what you needed, that nobody bothered you. His expression darkened slightly. There was a man. 2 months after the divorce. He asked you out. Treasure remembered. A customer at the bookstore, nice enough, persistent. I said no. I know. But he came back 3 more times, so I had a conversation with him. Jae-hyun. A polite conversation. I simply explained that you weren't interested, and continued pursuit would be unwise. You threatened him. I protected you. His voice was unapologetic. There's a difference. Treasure should be angry, should lecture him about boundaries and control and letting her make her own choices. But a traitorous part of her felt protected, cared for, like someone was watching her back even when she didn't know it. Their food arrived, pasta carbonara for her, rigatoni for him. They ate in comfortable silence for a while, the tension between them shifting into something warmer. I want to be there, Jae-hyun said eventually. When you go into labor, in the delivery room if you'll let me. I want to be the first person our son sees when he enters this world. Treasure's hand trembled around her fork. That's a lot of trust to ask for. I know, but I'm asking anyway. She thought about it, about going through labor alone versus having Jae-hyun there. Strong and steady and protective, making sure the doctors paid attention, that she got the best care, that nothing went wrong. Okay, she heard herself say. But if you faint, I'm never letting you forget it. Jae-hyun laughed, the sound genuine and warm. Deal. After dinner, they walked along the Han River. It was cold but clear, the city lights reflecting off the water. Jae-hyun draped his coat over her shoulders without asking, and Treasure let him because she was freezing and pregnant and tired of pretending she didn't want him close. Can I ask you something? Jae-hyun said after a while. Depends on the question. When did you know? About the baby? Treasure wrapped her arms around herself. About 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized. I was sick all the time, exhausted, emotional. I thought it was just stress. Then I took a test and... She trailed off, remembering that moment of pure terror and joy. I sat on my bathroom floor for an hour, just staring at those 2 lines. Were you scared? Terrified. I'd just lost my husband, my home, everything I knew. And suddenly, I was going to be responsible for another human being, someone completely dependent on me. Did you think about telling me? Every day. But I was so angry, Jae-hyun, at you, at your family, at myself for not being enough. And I thought, what if you didn't want him? What if you saw him as a mistake or a burden? I couldn't handle that rejection, not on top of everything else. Jae-hyun stopped walking, turning to face her. I could never think that. Never. He's a miracle, Treasure. The best thing I've ever had a part in creating. You say that now. But when he's screaming at 3 a.m. and you haven't slept in days, and your business is demanding attention, I'll be there. Changing diapers, warming bottles, walking him around the apartment until he falls asleep. Whatever it takes. His hands cupped her face, gentle and sure. I'm not my father. I won't be an absent parent who sees his child as an obligation. Our son will know he's loved. Will know he's wanted. Will never doubt that he's the most important thing in my life. Treasure's eyes burned with tears she couldn't hold back. You promise? I swear it on everything I am. She believed him. God help her, she believed him. They walked back to his car in silence, but it was comfortable now. Easier. Like some invisible wall between them had started to crack. When he dropped her at her apartment, Jae-hyun walked her to the door. "Can I call you tomorrow?" he asked. "You've been calling me every day for 2 weeks." "I know, but I'm asking permission now instead of just doing it." Treasure smiled despite herself. "Yes, you can call." "Good." He hesitated, then pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. Brief, chaste, but enough to make her heart skip. "Sleep well." He left before she could respond, and Treasure stood in her doorway for a long moment, fingers pressed to where his lips had been. This was dangerous. This feeling spreading through her chest, warm and terrifying and achingly familiar. This hope that maybe, just maybe, they could make it work this time. The next morning, Treasure woke to her phone ringing. Unknown number, but she was getting better at recognizing the pattern. "Did I wake you?" Jae-hyun's voice was rough, like he'd been up for hours. "It's 9 a.m. I've been awake since 6, because apparently our son thinks mornings are party time." "Is he moving now?" "Constantly. I swear he's training for the Olympics in there." "Can I?" Jae-hyun paused. "Never mind. It's stupid." "What?" "I was going to ask if I could come over, put my hand on your belly and feel him move. But that's presumptuous, and you probably have plans. I'm making pancakes and watching terrible reality TV. You're welcome to join." Silence. Then, "Really? Really? But you have to bring coffee. The good kind. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He arrived in 15, carrying coffee and a bag from the bakery she loved. He'd also brought fresh fruit, mangoes, because apparently he'd been serious about knowing her cravings. They settled on her couch, breakfast spread between them. Jae-hyun had changed into sweats and a t-shirt, looking more relaxed than she'd seen him in months. Years, maybe. "This is nice," Treasure admitted. "Normal. We could have this every day, if you wanted." "Jae-hyun, I'm not pushing, just stating facts." He set his coffee down. "Can I?" She knew what he was asking, took his hand, and placed it on her belly, where their son was currently doing gymnastics. Jae-hyun's entire face transformed, wonder replacing everything else. "He's so active." "Wait for it." Treasure counted silently. 3, 2, 1. The baby kicked hard, right against Jae-hyun's palm. He jerked back in surprise, then laughed. "He's strong. Told you. Future Taekwondo champion." They stayed like that for a while, Jae-hyun's hand on her belly, feeling their son move. And Treasure let herself imagine this was real. That they were a normal couple, expecting their first child. That the divorce and heartbreak had never happened. But reality always crept back in. "Your brother called me last week," she said quietly. Jae-hyun's hand stilled. "Tae-sung?" "He wanted to apologize for not standing up to your mother, for not supporting us when we needed it." "What did you say?" "That I appreciated the apology, but I wasn't ready to forgive yet. That actions matter more than words." Jae-hyun nodded slowly. "That's fair. He should have done more. We all should have." "He also said..." Treasure hesitated. "He said you've been different since the divorce. Harder? More ruthless? That you've made enemies backing away from some of the family's traditional alliances. Some of those alliances were built on corruption and violence. I'm trying to take the family legitimate. It's a slow process. And yes, it's made people angry." "Dangerous people?" "I can handle them." "That's not an answer, Jae-hyun." He met her eyes, and she saw the truth there. Yes, dangerous people. People who didn't appreciate him changing the rules. "I won't let anything happen to you or our son," he said firmly. "I've increased security around your apartment. your workplace. There are people watching who you'll never see. If anyone even looks at you wrong, I'll know about it. That's terrifying. That's reality. My world is dangerous, Treasure. It always has been. But I'm working to make it safer. For you. For him. For us. What if you can't? What if something happens? Then I'll burn everything down to protect you. My empire. My legacy. My life. None of it matters if you're not safe. The intensity in his voice should scare her, should make her want to run, but instead it made her feel protected, cherished, like she was worth fighting for. I'm scared, she admitted. Of me. Of this. Of letting you back in and getting hurt again. Of our son growing up in a world where people want to hurt his father. Jae-hyun pulled her close, careful of her belly. I'm scared, too, of failing you again, of not being the father he deserves, of losing both of you because I'm not enough. You are enough, Treasure whispered against his shoulder. You always were, you just had to believe it. They stayed like that, wrapped around each other, until Treasure's back started protesting and she had to shift positions. Jae-hyun immediately adjusted, grabbing pillows to support her, making sure she was comfortable. Stay, she heard herself say. For the day. We can watch movies and eat too much and pretend the outside world doesn't exist. Jae-hyun's smile was soft, genuine. I'd like that. So they did. They watched terrible romantic comedies and argued about plot holes and laughed until Treasure's sides hurt. Jae-hyun ordered lunch from her favorite Thai place, remembered she couldn't handle spicy food right now, made sure everything was mild. And for one perfect day, they were just Treasure and Jae-hyun. Not ex-spouses or complicated co-parents, or people with painful histories. Just two people falling back in love. The following week brought complications Treasure hadn't anticipated. She was at the bookstore, shelving new arrivals, when her phone buzzed with a number she didn't recognize. Against her better judgment, she answered. Treasure. The voice was cold, cultured, unmistakably familiar. This is Yoonhwa Park, Jae-hyun's mother. Treasure's blood went cold. I have nothing to say to you. Then listen. My son thinks he can erase me from his life, from this family. But he's wrong. I built this empire alongside his father. I won't be pushed aside because of some infatuation. He's not a child. He made his choice. A choice he'll regret when reality sets in. When he realizes that bastard you're carrying will never be accepted. That you'll always be an outsider. That love isn't enough to bridge the gap between your world and ours. Treasure's hand tightened on the phone. Stay away from us. Or what? You'll run to my son? He can't protect you from everything, girl. And when he fails, and he will fail, you'll understand that I was right all along. The line went dead. Treasure stood there shaking, one hand pressed to her belly protectively. The baby kicked, sensing her distress, and she forced herself to breathe. In and out. Slowly, Minseo appeared at her elbow. You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. Worse. I heard one. She told Minseo about the call. Her friend's face darkened. You need to tell Jae-hyun. I know. But it'll just make things worse. Escalate whatever war they're already fighting. Treasure. She threatened you. She threatened your baby. That's not something you sweep under the rug. Minseo was right. Treasure knew she was right. But the thought of dragging Jae-hyun back into his mother's orbit, of being the cause of more family destruction. Her phone rang again. This time, it was Jae-hyun. Are you all right? His voice was tight, controlled in that way that meant he was barely holding it together. How did you? My mother used a burner phone, but I have alerts set up. The moment an unknown number contacted you, my security team notified me. What did she say? Treasure closed her eyes. Of course he'd been monitoring her calls. Of course he'd know. She wanted me to understand that I'll never belong, that you'll realize your mistake eventually. Treasure? She's wrong, right? This isn't just you trying to do the right thing because of the baby? Look outside. Confused, Treasure walked to the bookstore's front window. Jae-hyun's car was parked across the street, and he was getting out, phone still pressed to his ear. He crossed the road without looking, eyes locked on her through the glass, determined, furious, protective. The bell chimed as he entered. He went straight to her, cupping her face with both hands, searching her eyes. "You are not a mistake," he said, loud enough that several customers turned to stare. "You are not an outsider. You are the woman I love, the mother of my child, and the only person who's ever made me want to be better than I am. My mother is wrong. She's always been wrong. And if she contacts you again, I will make sure she regrets it." Treasure's throat was too tight to speak. "I'm sorry," Jae-hyun continued, softer now. "I thought cutting her off would be enough. I should have known she'd try something. But I swear to you, this ends now. Today. She will never threaten you again. Jae-hyun, I don't want to be the reason your family falls apart. You're not. She is. Her hatred, her prejudice, her inability to see beyond blood and tradition. That's what's destroying this family, not you. Never you." He pulled her close, careful of her belly, and Treasure let herself lean into him. Let herself believe that maybe he was strong enough to stand between her and the poison his mother represented. "I need to go," Jae-hyun said eventually. "Handle this, but I'm sending someone to watch the store, just until I'm sure she won't try anything else." "That's not necessary." "It is." His voice left no room for argument. "Humor me. Please." Treasure nodded, too tired to fight. He pressed a kiss to her forehead, lingering longer than necessary. Then he was gone, leaving her standing in the middle of the bookstore with her heart in her throat. Later that evening, Tae-sung showed up at her apartment. Jae-hyun's younger brother looked exhausted, his usually perfect appearance slightly disheveled. "Can we talk?" he asked when she opened the door. Treasure hesitated, then stepped aside. 5 minutes. Tae-sung settled onto her couch, looking around the small space with something like regret. "This is nice, cozy. You didn't come here to compliment my decorating." "No," he sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I came to apologize. Again. And to warn you. About your mother. About everything." Tae-sung met her eyes. "Jae-hyun is making enemies, important people who relied on the old alliances, the old ways of doing business. They see his reforms as weakness. See you as a vulnerability they can exploit." Treasure's hand went to her belly. "Meaning?" "Meaning someone might try to hurt you to get to him. To prove he's not as powerful as he thinks. To send a message that love makes you weak. That's insane. That's our world." Tae-sung's voice was bleak. "I know Jae-hyun has security on you. That's good. But you need to be careful too. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't trust strangers. And if anything feels wrong, even slightly off, you call him immediately. You're scaring me." "Good. You should be scared, because the people who want to hurt my brother, they don't care that you're pregnant. They don't care that you're innocent. All they see is an opportunity." After Tae-sung left, Treasure couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, hand on her belly, feeling her son kick and wondering what kind of world she was bringing him into. A world where his father's enemies might see him as a target, where his grandmother saw him as an abomination, where love came with bodyguards and death threats. Her phone buzzed. Jae-hyun. "Can't sleep either," she texted. "Thinking about you, about him, about how to keep you both safe. Your brother came by, warned me about your enemies." A long pause. Then, "I'm going to kill him. Don't. He was trying to help. He scared you. He told me the truth. There's a difference. Another pause. I'm coming over. Jae-hyun, it's midnight. I don't care. I need to see you. Need to know you're okay. 20 minutes later, he was at her door. Still in the suit from earlier, tie loosened, exhaustion written across his features. But his eyes were alert, scanning her apartment, checking windows and locks before he even looked at her properly. Your security is inadequate, he said without preamble. It's an apartment building, not a fortress. It needs to be better. I'm having reinforced locks installed tomorrow. Cameras, a direct line to my security team. Jae-hyun, don't. His voice was raw. Don't tell me I'm overreacting. Don't tell me it's too much. Because the thought of something happening to you, to our son, because I didn't do enough, that's not something I can live with. Treasure saw it then. The fear beneath the control. The terror that he'd fail again, but this time the consequences would be permanent. Come here, she said softly. He crossed to her, and she took his hand, placing it on her belly. The baby was awake, moving restlessly. Feel that? He's fine. I'm fine. We're both okay. For now. But what about tomorrow? Next week? When you go into labor and you're vulnerable and... Stop! Treasure's other hand cupped his face, forcing him to look at her. You can't protect us from everything. Bad things might happen. Your mother might keep trying to interfere. Your enemies might see us as targets. But living in fear, that's not living at all. I can't lose you again. You won't. But you need to trust that we're stronger than you think. That I can be careful without being imprisoned. That our son deserves parents who believe in possibility, not just danger. Jae-hyun closed his eyes, leaning into her touch. You're right. I know you're right. But the thought of anything happening won't help. What will help is you getting some sleep. When's the last time you slept properly? 3 days ago. Maybe 4. Jae-hyun, I've been handling the situation with my mother, making sure she understands that contacting you again will have consequences, reinforcing security, meeting with allies to shore up support, managing threats from people who see my reforms as weakness. There's been a lot. Treasure made a decision that was probably stupid, but felt right anyway. Stay tonight. Sleep here. Just sleep, she added quickly when his eyes widened. On the couch. But stay. Because you're exhausted and I'll worry if you drive home like this. Treasure. Please. For me. He nodded slowly. Okay. She found him blankets and a pillow. He settled onto her couch, too tall for it. But he didn't complain. Just watched her with dark eyes that held too many emotions to name. Thank you, he said quietly, for this. For giving me another chance. For not giving up on us even when I gave you every reason to. Thank you for fighting. For choosing us. For proving that you meant it when you said you'd changed. She went to bed but couldn't sleep. Knowing Jae-hyun was in the next room, knowing he was there because he couldn't bear to leave her unprotected. It did something to her heart. Something warm and terrifying and impossible to ignore. Around 3 a.m., she got up for water and found him awake, staring at the ceiling. Can't sleep, she asked. Too much on my mind. Want to talk about it? Jae-hyun sat up, making room for her on the couch. She settled beside him, letting their shoulders touch. I keep thinking about when we first met, he said eventually. Do you remember? The art gallery in Itaewon. You were there for some business meeting. I was there because I loved the artist's work. You were standing in front of that painting, the one with the woman dancing in the rain, and you looked so captivated, like nothing else in the world existed except that canvas. Treasure smiled at the memory. You asked me what I saw in it. And you told me you saw freedom. Someone choosing joy despite the storm, despite everything trying to bring her down. You said it reminded you of me, even though we'd just met, even though you knew nothing about me. I knew enough, Jae-hyun said softly. I knew you were different from anyone I'd ever met, that you saw the world in ways I'd forgotten were possible, that you made me want to be more than just the heir to an empire. I fell in love with you that night, watching you talk about art and philosophy and what makes life worth living. Seeing past the expensive suit to the man underneath. I fell in love with you too, but I was too much of a coward to fight for us when it mattered. Too afraid of disappointing my family, of losing my place in the dynasty. I chose wrong, Treasure, and I've regretted it every day since. She leaned her head on his shoulder. We both made mistakes. I ran instead of fighting. I let your mother's words burrow into my heart and make me believe I wasn't enough. I gave up on us too. So where does that leave us now? Trying again, doing better, building something stronger than what we had before. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Jae-hyun spoke again, his voice hesitant. Can I ask you something? Always. After the baby is born, would you consider moving? Not far, just somewhere safer. Somewhere I can protect you both better. Treasure pulled back to look at him. You want us to live together? Eventually, if you're ready. If you trust me enough. But even if not, just somewhere with better security. A building with guards and cameras and layers of protection between you and anyone who might want to hurt you. That sounds like a prison. It's just precaution. Please, Treasure, let me do this one thing. Let me know you're as safe as I can make you. She thought about it. About her tiny apartment with its single lock and no security. About bringing a baby home to this place, knowing Jae-hyun's enemies might see them as targets. Okay, she said finally. But I picked the place, and it has to feel like a home, not a fortress. Relief flooded his features. Deal. We can start looking this week if you want. After the baby comes, I'm too tired to apartment hunt right now. Fair enough. They ended up falling asleep like that, curled together on her too small couch. And when Treasure woke up with the sunrise, Jae-hyun's arms were around her, protective even in sleep. She could get used to this. The next few weeks passed in a blur of doctor's appointments and apartment, viewings, and Jae-hyun slowly integrating himself back into her life. He was careful never to push too hard, never to assume rights he hadn't earned back yet. But he was constant, reliable, there when she needed him, and respectful of her space when she didn't. It was working. They were working, until everything fell apart again. Treasure was at the bookstore when the cramps started, sharp and sudden, making her double over behind the counter. Minseo found her there, face pale, hands clutching her belly. Hospital. Now. It's probably nothing. Just Braxton Hicks. You're 8 months pregnant and in pain. We're going to the hospital. Minseo called Jae-hyun while helping Treasure to her car. He answered on the first ring. What's wrong? She's having contractions. We're heading to Seoul National University Hospital. I'll meet you there. He beat them to the emergency room. Must have driven like a maniac through Seoul traffic because there was no way he'd gotten there that fast, legally. But he was there, taking Treasure from Minseo, carrying her inside despite her protests that she could walk. The doctors ran tests, checked her vitals, the baby's heartbeat, looked for signs of premature labor. Jae-hyun stood beside her bed the entire time, holding her hand, radiating controlled fury at the universe for putting her through this. False alarm, Dr. Kim said eventually. Just Braxton Hicks contractions, your body practicing for the real thing. But you need to rest, Treasure. No more working until after the baby comes. I can't afford. I'll handle it, Jae-hyun said immediately. Jae-hyun, please, let me do this. You almost gave me a heart attack today. The least you can do is let me make sure you're taking care of yourself. Dr. Kim smiled. Listen to him. Stress isn't good for the baby. And working on your feet all day at 8 months pregnant definitely counts as stress. After the doctor left, Treasure lay back against the pillows, exhausted. Scared you. Terrified me. When Minseo called and said you were in pain, Jae-hyun's hand tightened on hers. I've never driven that fast in my life. I think I broke several traffic laws getting here. My hero. Don't joke, not about this. She squeezed his hand. I'm okay. We're both okay. For now. But what about next time? What if you're alone when something happens? What if... Stop spiraling. The doctor said it's normal, that my body is just preparing. I don't care what's normal. I care that you're safe. Treasure pulled him closer until his forehead rested against hers. I am safe. Because you're here. Because you won't let anything happen to us. Because even when I push you away, you keep showing up. That's what makes me feel safe, Jae-hyun. Not security systems or bodyguards. You. Something shifted in his expression. Relief and love and bone-deep gratitude all mixed together. I love you, he said, the words raw and honest. I never stopped, even when we were apart, even when I thought I'd lost you forever. I loved you. I love you now. I'll love you tomorrow and every day after. And I know I don't deserve you. Know I failed you in every way that mattered. But if you'll let me, I'll spend the rest of my life proving I mean it. Treasure's eyes burned. I love you too. Even when I was angry, even when I wanted to hate you, I couldn't. Because you're it for me, Jae-hyun. You always were. He kissed her forehead, soft and reverent. No, not reverent. Tender. Full of promise. Marry me again, he whispered against her skin. What? After the baby comes, when you're ready. Marry me again. Let me do it right this time. A wedding where my family's approval doesn't matter. Where the only people who matter are us and our son and the life we're building together. Jae-hyun, I'm not asking for an answer now. Just think about it. Please. Treasure nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. They kept her overnight for observation. Jae-hyun never left, sleeping in the chair beside her bed, waking every time she shifted to make sure she was okay. And Treasure fell asleep watching him, thinking about second chances and futures that felt possible again. The next morning brought unexpected visitors. Jae-hyun's father and brother appeared in her hospital room, looking uncomfortable but determined. We won't stay long, Jae-hyun's father said. His name was Dong-min, and Treasure had only met him a handful of times during her marriage. He'd been distant, but not cruel, more focused on business than family drama. I wanted to apologize for my wife's behavior, for not intervening when I should have, for letting her poison what should have been celebrated. Treasure blinked, stunned. Mr. Park, please, call me Dong-min. You're the mother of my grandson. That makes you family, regardless of what papers say. Tae-sung stepped forward, setting a wrapped box on her bedside table. For the baby, from both of us, and from me, personally. I'm sorry. For not being a better brother to Jae-hyun, for not standing up for you when it mattered. I was a coward, and you paid the price. Jae-hyun's hand found Treasure's, squeezing gently. Thank you, she managed, for coming, for saying this. We mean it, Dong-min said. Yoonhwa's actions do not represent this family. She's been removed from all positions of influence, and she will not be part of our grandson's life. That's non-negotiable. What she said to you was unforgivable, Tae-sung added. We want you to know that we don't share her views, never did. We just didn't fight hard enough against them. That changes now. After they left, Treasure looked at Jae-hyun. Did you orchestrate that? No. They came on their own. My father's been horrified since he learned what my mother did. He's old-fashioned, but not hateful. The idea that she tried to buy you off, that she made you feel unwelcome, it goes against everything he believes about family honor. And Tae-sung has been drowning in guilt for months. He knew what she was doing and didn't stop it. Didn't warn me. He's trying to make amends. By buying baby gifts? By being a better uncle than he was a brother. Jae-hyun's expression was complicated. My family is broken, Treasure. Has been for years. But maybe, with you and our son, we can build something better. Something that doesn't repeat the same patterns. She thought about that. About breaking cycles. About building new traditions based on love instead of legacy. Maybe, she agreed. They released her from the hospital the next day with strict instructions to rest. Jae-hyun took her back to her apartment, but looked deeply unhappy about the security situation. I'm hiring someone, he announced. A personal assistant/bodyguard. Someone who can be with you when I can't. That's excessive. That's necessary. You almost went into early labor yesterday. What if you'd been alone? What if something had gone wrong? Jae-hyun, please. His voice cracked slightly. Please just let me do this. For my peace of mind, if nothing else. So Treasure agreed. And 2 days later, she met Jiwoo. Mid-30s, former military, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude that Treasure appreciated. She wasn't hovering or intrusive, just present. Making sure Treasure ate, slept, took her vitamins, didn't overdo things. I like her, Treasure admitted to Jae-hyun during one of his daily visits. Good. She came highly recommended. Spent 10 years in special forces before transitioning to private security. She makes really good soup, Jae-hyun smiled. That was not in her job description, but I'll take it. 3 weeks before her due date, Treasure woke up at 2 a.m. to wetness and panic. She called Jae-hyun first, then Jiwoo, trying to stay calm even though her heart was racing. My water broke. Jae-hyun's voice went sharp and focused. I'm on my way. Is Jiwoo there? She's coming up now. Good. Don't move. Don't panic. Just breathe. Easy for you to say. I know. I'm sorry. Just hold on. I'm 10 minutes away. He made it in 7. Jiwoo had already packed Treasure's hospital bag, helped her change, was timing contractions when Jae-hyun burst through the door, looking wild-eyed and terrified. How far apart? He demanded. 8 minutes, Jiwoo reported calmly. We have time. The drive to the hospital was tense. Jae-hyun held Treasure's hand, breathing with her through contractions, looking like he might break something every time she gasped in pain. You're doing great, he kept saying. So strong, so brave. I'm terrified. Me too. But we're doing this together. You, me, and our son. Team effort. Despite the pain, Treasure laughed. You're not the one pushing a human out of your body. No, but I'd take this pain for you if I could. All of it. They got her checked in, settled in a delivery room. The contractions were getting closer together, more intense. Jae-hyun never left her side, letting her squeeze his hand hard enough to leave marks, whispering encouragement and love and promises about the future. You can do this, he said, when she was sobbing through a particularly bad contraction. I know it hurts. I know it's terrifying. But you're the strongest person I know. And in a few hours, we'll meet our son. It'll all be worth it. Easy for you. I know. I'm sorry. I wish I could do more. You're here. That's enough. Hours passed in a blur of pain and pushing, and Jae-hyun's steady presence. When the doctor finally said she was ready, when it was time to push for real, Treasure was exhausted and terrified and ready for this to be over. One more, the doctor encouraged. Big push. You've got this. Treasure bore down, squeezing Jae-hyun's hand, feeling like she was being split in half, and then crying. High and indignant, and the most beautiful sound she'd ever heard. It's a boy, the doctor announced, holding up a tiny, squirming bundle. Perfectly healthy. They placed him on Treasure's chest, and she looked down at her son. Their son, and fell completely, irrevocably in love. He had Jae-hyun's dark hair, her nose, and lungs that could probably wake the entire hospital. "Hi, baby," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Hi, sweet boy. We've been waiting for you." Jae-hyun was crying too, not even trying to hide it. His hand touched their son's tiny head, gentle and awed. "He's perfect," Jae-hyun breathed. "Look at him. He's absolutely perfect." "Do we have a name?" the nurse asked. Treasure looked at Jae-hyun. They'd discussed names, but never quite settled on one. "Kai," Jae-hyun said softly. "It means victory, because he's our victory. Proof that love can survive anything." Kai Minjun Park, Treasure added, including both their heritages in their son's name. The nurse smiled, making a note. Beautiful name for a beautiful boy. After they cleaned Kai up and made sure he was healthy, after they'd moved Treasure to a recovery room, Jae-hyun sat beside her bed holding their son. He looked transformed, like fatherhood had cracked open something in him that had been locked away for too long. "Thank you," he said, without looking away from Kai. "For this. For him. For giving me another chance to be the man you both deserve. Thank you for fighting for us, for not giving up when I pushed you away. I'll never give up. Not on you, not on him, not on us. This is my family. My whole world." Kai yawned, tiny fist curling against Jae-hyun's chest, and Treasure's heart expanded so much it hurt. "We should rest while he's sleeping," she said. "I have a feeling we won't get much sleep once we take him home." "Where is home?" Jae-hyun asked carefully. "Your apartment? Somewhere new? My penthouse? I don't know yet. Can we figure it out later?" "Of course, whatever you want." But 2 days later, when they were discharged from the hospital, Treasure made a decision. Jong-hyun pulled up to her apartment building, started to help her out, and she shook her head. "Take us to your place." He froze. "What?" "Your penthouse. Take us there. I want to try this. Being a family, living together, figuring out how to make this work. Treasure. I'm not saying it'll be easy. I'm not saying I've forgiven everything. But I love you, Jae-hyun. And I want Kai to grow up with both his parents. I want to wake up next to you and argue about whose turn it is to change diapers and build something real together. So unless you've changed your mind, never." Jae-hyun's voice was rough with emotion. "I'll never change my mind. You're it for me. Both of you." So he drove them to his penthouse, the one Treasure had left months ago, swearing she'd never return. But walking in now, with Kai in her arms and Jae-hyun beside her, it felt different. Less like a museum showcasing wealth, and more like a place they could make into a home. "I had it redecorated," Jae-hyun admitted, watching her nervously. "Got rid of everything that reminded me of my mother's influence. Made it softer, more welcoming. I was hoping someday you'd come back." Treasure looked around at the warm colors, the comfortable furniture, the nursery that had been set up in the room next to the master bedroom, complete with a crib, changing table, rocking chair, and more baby supplies than any one child could possibly need. "You did all this. I had help, but yes, I wanted it to be ready, just in case." She turned to him, Kai sleeping peacefully in her arms. "I'm scared. Me too. But I want this. Want us. Want to try." Jae-hyun kissed her forehead, careful not to disturb the baby. That's all I'm asking. A chance to prove I mean it. That I'll choose you every single day for the rest of my life. The first week was chaos. Kai didn't sleep, which meant neither did they. Jae-hyun learned how to change diapers and warm bottles and rock a screaming infant at 3 a.m. He attended conference calls while wearing spit-up on his expensive shirts, made million-dollar decisions on 3 hours of sleep, and never once complained. Treasure watched him transform from the controlled, intimidating mafia boss into a gentle father who sang lullabies in Korean and made silly faces to get their son to stop crying. And she fell in love with him all over again. 2 months after Kai was born, Jae-hyun's father requested a visit. Treasure was nervous, but Jae-hyun promised he'd handle it if things went badly. Dongmin arrived with Tae-sung, both carrying gifts and looking appropriately odd, when Jae-hyun placed Kai in his grandfather's arms. "He's beautiful," Dongmin said softly. "Looks like both of you. Strong. Perfect." "Thank you for coming," Treasure said carefully. "Thank you for letting us. I know we don't deserve it after everything my wife put you through. But I'm grateful. And I promise he'll always be welcome in this family. Always be loved and protected and valued for exactly who he is." Tae-sung knelt beside Treasure's chair. "I know I've apologized before, but I need to say it again. I'm sorry. For not being the brother Jae-hyun needed. For not standing up for you. For being complicit in my mother's cruelty through my silence. I'll do better, I swear it." "I believe you," Treasure said, surprising herself, "and I appreciate you trying." After they left, Jae-hyun pulled her close. "You didn't have to forgive them." "I didn't. Not entirely. But holding on to anger takes energy I don't have right now. And they're trying. That has to count for something. You're extraordinary, you know that. I'm exhausted and covered in baby drool. That's what I am." Jae-hyun laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "That too." 3 months after Kai was born, Jae-hyun asked again. They were sitting on the couch, Kai asleep between them, when he pulled out a ring box. "I know I asked before," he said quietly. "In the hospital. But I'm asking again, properly this time. Treasure, will you marry me? Not because we have a son together, not because it's expected, but because I love you more than anything in this world. Because I want to spend every day proving I'm worthy of you. Because you make me want to be better, stronger, more human. Because life without you isn't life at all." Treasure's eyes burned. "You really mean it." "I've never meant anything more. I know I failed you before. I know I have to earn back your trust every single day. But if you'll let me, I'll spend the rest of my life loving you, protecting you, building something beautiful with you." She looked at the ring. Simple, elegant, nothing like the ostentatious diamond from their first engagement. This one was a sapphire surrounded by small diamonds, the stone deep blue like the ocean. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "It's from Seychelles. I had it specially made. Wanted you to have something that honored where you came from, who you are, not who my family wanted you to be." "You researched Seychellois jewelry?" "I researched everything about you. Your culture, your heritage, your homeland. Because it's part of you, which makes it important. Which makes it something I should know and celebrate and teach our son about." Treasure was crying now, unable to stop the tears. "Yes." Jae-hyun froze. "Yes?" "Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I'll build a life with you. Yes, I believe you've changed. Yes to all of it." He slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her close, careful not to disturb Kai sleeping between them. His forehead pressed to hers, and Treasure felt the last of her walls crumble. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too. More than power, more than legacy, more than anything this world could offer. You and Kai, you're my everything." They married 3 months later in a small ceremony at a beach in Seychelles. Just them, Kai, Jae-hyun's father and brother, and a few close friends. No grand spectacle, no family politics, just two people choosing each other with full hearts and clear eyes. Treasure wore a simple white dress, flowers in her hair. Jae-hyun wore linen pants and a shirt, barefoot in the sand. And when they said their vows, Kai gurgled happily from his grandmother's arms. Treasure's mother, who had flown in for the wedding and hadn't stopped crying since she arrived. "I promise to choose you," Jae-hyun said, voice thick with emotion. "Every day, in every moment. When things are easy and when they're hard. When you're angry with me and when you're not. I'll choose you over everything else. Always." "I promise to trust you," Treasure replied, tears streaming down her face. "To believe in us, to fight for our family, to love you even when it's scary, especially when it's scary, because you're worth it. We're worth it." They didn't share a traditional kiss. Instead, Jae-hyun pressed his forehead to hers, their hands clasped between them, and they stood there as the sun set over the ocean. Whole, complete. Finally home. 6 months after the wedding, Treasure found out she was pregnant again. They talked about having more children but hadn't been actively trying. But looking at the test, at those 2 pink lines, she felt nothing but joy. Jo-hyun's reaction was predictable. He immediately started planning, researching, preparing. But this time was different. This time, there was no fear, no worry about family approval, just excitement about growing their family. "You know what this means," Treasure said one evening as they watched Kai play with his toys. "What? 2 under 2. We're going to be outnumbered." Jae-hyun laughed, pulling her close. "Good. I like a challenge. You're insane. Probably. But I'm your kind of insane." She couldn't argue with that. The pregnancy was easier this time. Less stress, more support, and a partner who actually understood what she needed. Jae-hyun attended every appointment, rubbed her feet when they swelled, craved pickles with her at 2 a.m., and never once made her feel like she was going through this alone. When their daughter was born, a beautiful girl with Treasure's eyes and Jae-hyun's smile, they named her Nala, after Treasure's grandmother, who had taught her about strength and resilience and never giving up on love. Kai was fascinated by his baby sister, wanting to help with everything, and watching Jae-hyun navigate fatherhood ×2, seeing him balance running an empire with being present for his family. Treasure fell in love with him a little more each day. "We did it," she said one night after finally getting both kids to sleep. "Did what?" "Built something better, something real. A family that chooses love over everything else." Jae-hyun pulled her onto his lap, holding her close. "We did, and it's only going to get better from here." "You sound very confident for a man who just got spit up on twice." "I am confident, because I have you, because we have them, because love won. Despite everything, trying to tear us apart, love won." Treasure kissed his cheek, then his jaw, letting herself be held. Yes, it did. Years passed. Kai started school. Nala learned to walk, and they added another child to the family, a son they named after Treasure's father. Jae-hyun successfully transitioned the family business, completely legitimate, cutting ties with the old alliances and building something they could both be proud of. His mother made one final attempt to contact them when Kai was 5. She showed up at the school, trying to see her grandson. But security, and Jae-hyun's absolute refusal to allow her anywhere near his children, prevented it. She sent letters, gifts, made appeals through extended family members. Jae-hyun burned every letter unopened. "She's still your mother," Treasure said once, watching him destroy another package. She stopped being my mother when she tried to destroy you, when she made you feel less than, when she threatened our family. That woman has no place in our lives. Not now. Not ever. Treasure didn't argue, because he was right. Some bridges, once burned, couldn't be rebuilt. On their 10th anniversary, Jae-hyun surprised her with a trip back to Seychelles. Just the two of them, leaving the kids with his father and brother. A week of sun and ocean, and remembering why they fell in love in the first place. "Do you have any regrets?" Treasure asked, as they walked along the beach at sunset. "Only one. That I didn't fight for you sooner, that I let you go in the first place. But if you hadn't, we might not be here, might not have learned what we needed to learn. Maybe. But I still regret the pain I caused you, the months you spent alone, the fear you felt when you found out you were pregnant." Treasure stopped walking, turning to face him. "I don't regret it, any of it, because it led us here, to this life, these children, this love that's stronger for being tested." Jae-hyun cupped her face, thumbs brushing her cheeks. "I love you. More now than I did 10 years ago. More than I thought possible. I love you too. My impossible, stubborn, protective, wonderful husband." He kissed her forehead, then her nose, then her cheeks. And they stood there as the sun set, exactly where they'd married, exactly where their forever had really begun. Because love doesn't always come easy. Sometimes it comes broken, bruised, wrapped in second chances and hard-won trust. Sometimes it requires fighting through family opposition and personal demons and all the ways we fail each other. But when it's real, when it's worth it, love conquers everything. And their love, it was the realest thing either of them had ever known. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Jae-hyun held Treasure close, and she let herself sink into the moment, into the warmth of his embrace, into the knowledge that they'd built something unbreakable. Their story hadn't been easy. It hadn't been simple or straightforward or anything like a fairy tale. But it was theirs, written in tears and laughter, in sleepless nights and quiet mornings, in the beautiful chaos of building a family against all odds. And standing there on that beach, with 10 years of love and life and learning behind them, Treasure knew one thing with absolute certainty. She'd do it all again. Every painful moment, every hard conversation, every tearful fight and desperate reconciliation. Because it had led her here, to him, to their children, to a love that had survived everything thrown at it and come out stronger. "Ready to go back?" Jae-hyun asked eventually. "To the hotel or to reality?" "Both, eventually." Treasure smiled. "Not yet. Let's stay a little longer, just us and the ocean and this moment. Whatever you want." And that right there, that willingness to pause, to prioritize her needs, to choose connection over everything else. That was why it worked, why they worked. They walked back to their hotel as stars began appearing overhead. And Treasure thought about their children waiting at home, about the life they'd built, about all the moments still to come. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, and it was theirs. And that was more than enough. It was everything. The most beautiful love stories aren't the ones that start perfectly. They're the ones that survive being broken and choose to rebuild anyway. Jae-hyun and Treasure's journey shows us that sometimes falling apart is what teaches us how to truly come together. Like and subscribe if you want more stories about love that fights, heals, and wins.